Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says what? وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. Hold on fast to the rope of Allah. Together, all of you Muslims, and be not divided. What is the rope of Allah? The Quran and the Sunnah. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, difficult times will come in the end. He said, hold on to it by your molar teeth. Like you grip something with your teeth, don't let it go. The deen, the values of your deen. And we are going through challenges. Not just physical challenges of war, but challenges against the faith, challenges of values, challenges of the so-called liberal system of society where anything goes. You can be whatever you want. And not talk about in a noble way, in an evil way. Now the scene changes. We go from the palaces into the dungeons, into the prison. وَدَخَلَ مَعَهُ السِّجْنَ فَتَيَانِ قَالَ أَحَدُهُمَا إِنِّي أَرَانِي أَعْصِرُ خَمْرًا وَقَالَ الْأُخْرَى إِنِّي أَرَانِي أَحْمِلُ فَوْقَ رَأْسِي خُبْزًا تَأْكُلُ الطَّيْرُ مِنْهُ نَبِّئْنَا بِتَأْوِيلِهِ إِنَّا نَرَاكَ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. So, when he is thrown in prison, two other people young men are being, probably slaves, being thrown in the prison. So they meet up there, and one of them says to him, he's never met him before, he says to him, I saw in a dream that I'm pressing wine, I'm making wine. And the other one said, oh, I had a dream too, that I'm carrying bread on my head and birds are eating from it. Okay, you had a dream. Now what happened? No, they tell this dream to Yusuf alayhi salam, a stranger, and they say, tell us about the interpretation of these dreams. How do they know? How do they know that he can interpret dreams? That's only known to Yaqub alayhi salam. Even his brothers don't know that. Inna naraka min al-muhsinin. Because we see something special in you. You seem like muhsin, noble, beautiful. Noor, you have something special. And these people are seeing it. Women said he's an angel. They are seeing something special. So just for that, they said, you must be somebody special. Tell us what you think. Now comes an interesting part. All of Surah Yusuf is dedicated to Yusuf alayhi salam, about him. But there are conversations where he says a few things. For example, in the beginning he said to his father, oh my father, Ya Abati, I saw stars in the sun and moon doing sajda. One liner. When he is accused of this, he doesn't go into a long explanation. He says, she desired me. That's it. Everywhere where he talks, it's a one-liner. But now you have ayah after ayah after ayah, 4 ayahs of long conversation of what Yusuf alayhi salam said. This was said in prison to 2 prisoners. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His wisdom has made this a permanent record in Lawh Mahfuz and in the Quran to be read till the Day of Judgment. What did Yusuf say to the 2 prisoners? Isn't it amazing? So there must be something special about this. Now imagine on the Day of Judgment, Yusuf alayhi salam comes and he sees his conversation recorded on the Quran, completely word for word. What kind of honor that would be, right? So there is something special about all the things that happen. Now just take the scene. From one thing, you think things can get worse, they get worse. Can get worse, they get. Now he's thrown there with all injustice. Any normal person would have said what? Ya Allah, what is this? Why me? What did I do? Did I keep going through this? No. He's asked, and he gives you what is inside him. He exposes what is in his heart. قال, he said, لا يأتيكما طعام ترزقانه إلا نبأتكما بتأويله قبل أن يأتيكما ذلكما مما علمني ربي إني تركت ملة قوم لا يؤمنون بالله وهم بالآخرة هم كافرون. He said, your food will not come to you. In other words, the prisoners would get a meal whenever. He said, before that meal, before that provision comes to you, I will tell you. Okay, he immediately didn't answer their dream. He said, I'll tell you. I'll tell you, and you won't have to wait long because the meal will come, but I will tell you what is the interpretation before that food comes. And then he gives them da'wah. So he is giving da'wah towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the prison. Now look at the methodology. So he said, yeah, you want that? I'll give you the answer. But let's have a small conversation. And it's not about, look what they did to me. Look what did this. Nothing of that. First he says, this is that which my Lord has taught me. What you see of goodness, that you think I can interpret this. He doesn't say, that's me. He says, this is the knowledge. This is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So he acknowledges Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and shows shukr by acknowledging. One way of acknowledging, showing shukr, is to acknowledge something that this is from Allah. And then he starts his dawah by saying, indeed, I have abandoned the religion of a people, means the people of Egypt, that believe not in Allah. So he's not trashing their religion first. He says, I have abandoned what they believe in, and they are disbelievers in the hereafter. So he's indirectly saying, they don't believe in Allah, they don't believe in the hereafter, so I've left that religion. Okay? So it's not a direct attack against them. He's saying, in a way, that I have left this. And then he says, so where do I go? واتبعت ملة آباء إبراهيم وإسحاق ويعقوب ما كان لنا أن نشرك بالله من شيء ذلك من فضل الله علينا وعلى الناس ولكن أكثر الناس لا يشكرون. He says, what do? I have left that faith, the faith of the people. And he doesn't even say the people of Egypt. He said of a qawm. They're insignificant because they don't believe. He doesn't say, oh, the great nation of Egypt. He says, qawm. People. وَاتَّبَعْتُ, and I have followed مِلَّةَ آبَائِي, the religion of my father. Who? Ibrahim wa Ishaq wa Yaqub. Proudly claims that heritage. Now these people don't know who Ibrahim, Ishaq and Yaqub is. He doesn't care. But he's telling them that those are our people. مَا كَانَ, and how are we different? مَا كَانَ لَنَا أَن نُشْرِكَ بِاللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. We are unique. It is not right for us that we could ever associate anything in partnership with Allah. This is how we are unique. So he is taking pride in his heritage and pride in the fact that we are people of Tawheed. We don't do shirk. That's our nobility. Not the pharaohs and the Hiskios and whoever the kings were, whatever they do, because people think that's noble. He is proudly saying, you want to know what nobility is? Nobility is my lineage, my great-grandfather, my grandfather, my father. This is why. What is our claim to fame? Even though you don't know, they were muwahhid. He didn't even say they were anbiya or rusul. He said their nobility was tawheed. It is not befitting for us to ever have any partnership with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And ذَلِكَ مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ, again he said, and this is from the grace of Allah, that He gave us tawheed. He didn't allow us to become mushrik. This is the fadl of Allah. Who's saying? Who is a Nabi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. This is the fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah's grace upon us, and wa ala nas, and for mankind, means this grace is available to you, to all of mankind, if you want to take it. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ اللَّهِ, but the majority of people are not grateful. They don't take this great gift Allah is giving. They reject Tawheed. يا صاحبي السجن أأرباب متفرقون خير أم الله الواحد القهار. Next, after that Tawheed, he presents an argument. He says, O my companions of the prison, أأرباب مفرقون He said, are many different lords, arbab, better or Allah? Better or Allah? Al-Wahidul Qahhar, the one and irresistible. So, people have had multiple gods that they worship. You know, we have polytheists, we have people living in Indian subcontinents, the Greek mythology, multiple gods, a god for this, god for this, god for that. He says, are multiple gods better, or lords, or one? The argument is, if you have multiple masters, or multiple bosses, or multiple lords, you cannot make them happy. Why? Because one says something, one says something else. If you make this one happy, the other is unhappy, and so on and so forth. If you take orders from many people, you don't know who you can make happy. You make one happy, the other is unhappy. So this is the argument he's saying. And when we talk about arbab, it's not just idols. Relevant to us is all the systems that we are exposed to. You know, capitalism, power, and dunya, and my own hawa, and this is the custom of our country, and this is politically correct. These are all systems, arbab. Anything that you give up and submit to that goes against Allah's order, you have taken as a Rabb, including yourself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and they have taken their own hawa as their Rabb, their own desires and inclination. So he says, who is better? And then he says, other than Allah al-Wahid, the one. The one. Somebody might argue, oh, you've got one God, we've got many gods. Many gods can overcome one. Right? This is how we think, like human beings. The word Al-Wahid in the Quran occurs in 4 places. Every time Al-Wahid comes, it is attached to another word, name of Allah. Which is it? Al-Qahhar. Every time. Al-Wahid Al-Qahhar. Just because he is alone, don't think he can be overpowered. He is the irresistible. He overpowers everything. Al-Wahid Al-Qahhar, Al-Wahid Al-Qahhar, always together. So this is what he says. So don't have any misconception because he is one that, okay, we are better off, we have many gods. Then he says, he takes it next level. So right now, he's not attacking their gods, he's just telling his own story and making an argument. But then he goes up next notch. Now he talks directly to them. This is his method of dawah. And this is what we learn. مَا تَعْبُدُونَ مِن دُونِهِ إِلَّا أَسْمَاءٍ سَمَّيْتُمُوهَا أَنْتُمْ وَآبَاؤُكُمْ. What you worship. Now he's telling those two people. What you worship other than Allah are nothing except names you have made up. They are false. You and your parents. Now he's even attacking the parents because frequently people say, this is what we found our parents doing, and grandparents, right? We follow the religion of our parents. They were also misguided, they were wrong, and you are wrong. مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ بِهَا مِن سُلْطَانٍ. Allah has not authorized this. إِنَ الْحُكْمُ إِلَّا لِلَّهِ. There is only one authority, which is with hukm, with Allah. Amara Allah ta'budu illa iyyah. And he has commanded that you worship none other than Him. ذَلِكَ الدِّينُ الْقَيِّمُ, and this is the straight path. وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرَ النَّاسِ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ, but the majority of people do not know. So, in 4 ayahs, he gives a stratified, wise da'wah towards the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In prison, he takes this opportunity. And this is not unusual. Do you know where most of the conversions take place in our country here?
Prison.
In the prison. Because there's time to think.
No distraction.
So imagine somebody goes in for a crime they committed to prison and comes out as a Muslim. What a gift that prison sentence was. Look at things in a different way. SubhanAllah. And somebody else illegally gets rid of others and becomes the king. Palaces. Say, look how lucky. No, he's not. Because Allah will disgrace a person like that. And Allah honors people like this. Then, after all of this, now he finally comes to interpretation of their dreams. He said, Ya sahibaya sijni, amma ahadukuma fayasqi rabbahu khamra, wa amma al-akhiru fayuslabu fatakulu at-tayru min ra'sihi. Qudiya al-amru alladhi fihi tastaftiyan. He said, O my companions, as for the one who saw the dream of pressing the wine, you will pour out wine to your Rabb, your master. You will be a servant of somebody big, and he became the servant of the king, serving him wine. And which means you will be saved. And then as for the other, he will be crucified. He will be sentenced to death because they were going to be tried. They were in prison for certain crimes. You will be tried and you will be crucified and hung up there, and the birds will eat. The vultures will come. Gave him a death sentence and told him that is how the case has been decided concerning what you asked. So one was given a death sentence, one was given, and that's what happened. Now, then he said to the one who he knew was going to live and serve his master, وَقَالَ لِلَّذِي ظَنَّ أَنَّهُ نَاجٍ مِّنْهُمَا اذْكُرْنِي عِنْدَ رَبِّكَ فَأَنْسَاهُ الشَّيْطَانُ ذِكْرَ رَبِّهِ فَلَبِثَ فِي السِّجْنِ بِضْعَ سِنِينَ. And he said to the one who he knew would be saved, mention me, mention my case in the presence of your master, because you're going to be serving somebody important. Mention why, so that they can look into this situation and know that I'm innocent and get me out. So tell them about my case. But Shaitan made him forget to mention Yusuf to his master. So he remained in prison for several years. Bid'a sinin, anywhere from like 3 to 9 year time frame, but this, historians say it's about 7 years he spent in prison, which is not a short time. So he used asbab. He said, mention it. And it is said that Shaitan made him forget. Till when? Till that time when the king sees the dream. Now some people have, because this can be read in different ways, have given another translation of this. They said, Shaitan made him forget, means made Yusuf forget his Lord, to mention it to his Lord, and therefore not ask his help, and so he remained in prison for 7 years. Allahu Alam, I prefer the first interpretation, because Yusuf alayhi salam's character is not one where he forgets Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. Including Shaitan's attacks. So we have, in summary, a remarkable composed young man who has been repeatedly traumatized and abandoned, enslaved, imprisoned for no fault of his, yet he makes use of his time in prison in giving dawah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with wisdom, using a particular sequence, starting with gratitude of shukr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to remember always to be a shakir. Shukr and sabr, those are two things, and they are linked to each other. How is shukr linked to sabr? Anybody?
Sabr is a sign of gratitude.
Shukr leads to sabr. Why? Because if you're truly shakir, means you recognize all of the blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you know all the favors Allah has done. So when a difficult time comes, you said, Ya Allah, so many grace and favors on me. This will also pass. Right? So one leads into the other. So always may Allah make us among the shakirin. So the first thing in recognizing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or when you're giving dawah to somebody, is remind them of the favors of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so they may become grateful. And the dawah starts with positive. We don't give dawah, okay, you're doing this, you're going to burn in Jahannam. That's not dawah. Okay. Tell them about the grace of Allah, His favors, His forgiveness, and all of that. Okay. Make them love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before you put the fear in them. Okay. Fear is necessary for some people. But positive reinforcement, need for gratitude. And then his negation of the people that were there. The favor of Tawheed, which we should think within ourselves. How grateful am I that Allah has made us muwahhid, people of Tawheed, and not people of Shirk. Through nothing that we did. Allah just gave it to us as a gift. And sometimes when the gift is given without any struggle, we don't have value for it. This is the greatest of all gifts. To be a person of Tawheed. To be, then on top of that, to be in the Ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Khairul Ummam. The best of nations. How grateful are we for that? I think I've covered most of the other points. So the last part here is that we must take advantage of whatever opportunity Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us and use your talent, your wisdom, and call people to Allah with a noble character. Have a noble character and care about people as he did. So inshallah, that's where we will end today's session, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us understand the lessons and to put them in our lives, and to open the hearing channels of our hearts to understand his words, and to teach those, first practice, and then to teach our children, and to show by our actions that we are people of the Quran. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.